People who divorced after only 1 year, what happened? Had a cousin who married a real piece of work. As background, my extended family tends to drink too much, get too loud, and get too rowdy. The family reunion had been kicked out and banned from multiple venues. My cousin shows up with her fiancé 1 year and he's an absolute shithead. Picking fights, lighting fireworks, terrorizing people's pets. He's so bad that my uncle, her dad, has to pull him aside and say, "You need to take it down a notch." She marries him anyways because she doesn't understand that's him on his best behavior. They lasted less than a year. She won't talk about it, but the rumor was she found out he was a meth head. He lost his job and became paranoid that I, who was working, was cheating. My job was about a 20-minute drive away, but if there was traffic and it took me 30 minutes, I was interrogated about my whereabouts. All of this took place maybe 3 months after we got married. We weren't married much longer after that. More shit went down, but yet. She was bipolar and I didn't know. Had one really bad episode and she asked for the divorce. I tried really hard to stay married in spite of that. I came to find out that she was trying to separate me from my friends and family so she could control me like her mom controls her dad. The signs were all there and I just overlooked them. We were divorced after 6 weeks. Not me, but a co-worker started banging a guy staying at the hotel we worked at, barely went a year married to her hubby. She eventually came clean, but she kind of had to when she turned up prego and didn't know who the father was. I was cheated on before and during the short marriage, and she began frequently using drugs. It wasn't meant to last long and shouldn't have happened in the first place. Oh well, hindsight is 20/20, right? Prescription drug addict. No one knew and all she did was open credit cards in my name and stocked up on prescription pain pills. Didn't even fight or go to a lawyer, just signed off on papers. Not me, but a woman whose husband claimed to be in the Navy because her father was, and even bought a Navy uniform off eBay to get married in. She found out when she pushed to get a VA loan so they could buy a house and his story all fell apart. Not me, but my cousin divorced after 6 months. The guy stole $50,000 from her dad and was a complete douche on multiple levels. Not me, but acquaintance. His wife sat him down the day they came back from their honeymoon. Apparently she had met someone at work some months before, flirting ensued. What she told him, she thought it was just cold feet, so she kept going forward with the wedding. She chickened out on calling it off the day of, even though this was apparently when a light went on and she knew she didn't want to be with him. He is a good sport about it and takes solace in knowing it was all her. Married a wonderful lady later and has a gaggle of kids. Ex-wife and random dude dated for a while, but did not stay together. A tiny bit longer than that. We had been dating for a while. It was good. Both our families were pressuring us to make it official. So eventually we caved. She is lovely. But she wasn't my partner. A fantastic partner for someone else. I did find my person later on and we've been happy for over 2 decades. We would likely have broken up anyway. Again, we were good to each other, just not really for each other. But we had extra steps thanks to family pressure. Not me, but my husband's first marriage. To be fair, they got married after only knowing each other for 6 months, which isn't nearly enough time to get to know someone before marrying them. They were young, about 22 years old, and impulsive. Luckily no children came of that situation. Within 6 months of marriage, she quit her job without discussing it first with her husband. She spent the last of her savings on a full arm tattoo. She then managed to drain their joint savings account, like $3,000, while he was away at a training school. That was the last straw. I found messages from her to 2 different men she knew trying to convince them to come to where we lived and kill me. Also found out that she was cheating on me as well with someone local. Old roommate of mine married a gay man. Found out 8 months in when she caught him with porn. She said she expected something since they never had sex. Only 4 times in those 8 months. She was gorgeous too. I realized I deserved better. He was so angry all the time, and I was constantly walking on eggshells. I definitely settled when I married him. I had a kid before meeting him and thought no one else would ever want to date me. I had a co-worker, so got married to her college boyfriend. Came back from their Caribbean honeymoon and a month later told us she was pregnant. Everyone was happy for her, until later that week I saw her crying coming out of our boss's office. I found out later that day that she was indeed pregnant, but by another guy. A guy that would bartend our office parties a couple times a year. Apparently, they were having sex through her entire engagement and 1 month of marriage. She ended up getting a divorce and trying to make it work with the bartender. Let's just say it was weird at the next couple office parties. They didn't seem too happy together. Looking back, we were already on the verge of an abusive relationship. But once we got married, he said, "Why would you argue about that? You know who you choose to marry. I want to move back to my hometown and you know who you married." The reasoning the other way around didn't hold up for him, obviously. He used physical violence against me 2 months after marriage when I would fight this argument for the first time. I left after 4 only. He was convinced I wouldn't leave anymore once the papers were signed and everything escalated. He was wrong. Instead of being with me when I was going through chemo or even giving me a ride there and back, he was paying male escorts to suck him off in CVS parking lots. Also liked to use suicidal threats and self-harm to manipulate me. He pushed me into a pallet fire and set me up to be sexually assaulted so he could catch me in the act. Cool, cool, cool. We lasted a little over a year. The first sign happened our first night home from the honeymoon. He said he was going to sleep on the couch because he'd be more comfortable there, and that's where he slept nearly every night. He all but ignored me unless he had a work function for me to attend. Half an hour after I got home from having abdominal surgery, he asked what I was going to make for dinner. The final straw was when he yelled at me for spending $8 on a pair of shoes for my grandfather's funeral, then he spent $800 on a single golf club the next day. Lots of little things on a daily basis that let me know that he was perfectly happy with me being miserable. I grew my first hints of self-respect during that year and decided I was worth more. Not me, but my friend. He pulled the plug after 10 months. She was crazy pants. Kept her place and never moved in with him. Brought her kid on their honeymoon to Disney World and did everything with the kid, leaving him behind. Screaming at him constantly. This is why you don't get engaged to someone you only dated for a month. I got shotgun married to a woman who had some mental health issues. I got custody of our kid, if that tells you anything. She pressured me to open up the relationship so she could date women. I did the work of wrapping my head and heart around being in a one-sided poly relationship and actually got to the point of being happy for her. Then she caught feels for one of them and decided she didn't want to be married to a man anymore. It was especially horrible because the relationship was very happy up to that point, and she pulled this shit at a time when we happened to be working very closely on a project I couldn't bow out of. His controlling side came out as well as did his only what I want sexually matters side, and I had to pull a knife out one evening to get him to stop. He also threatened to stab my friends who were playing the role of my security guards when I was on campus after I had left him. She cheated on me while I was at sea on a submarine in the Navy. She definitely broke my heart.